For this week's video, I figured we're going to do something a little bit different. It's been probably 3 weeks of straight rain here, and today is the first day of really good weather that we've had. So I figured we'd do a change of scenery, get out of the office, and talk about some real estate. Today we're talking about LLCs, which stand for Limited Liability Corporations. We're going to go into what it is, why you need one, when you should use it, and if you need one to invest in real estate. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm Bryce with Sane Sense, where we talk about everything from personal finance to real estate investing. Today we're talking about LLCs and whether or not you should use one for real estate. There's a lot of misconceptions kind of floating around the internet whether you need one or not. A lot of people have personal preferences. I'm not a tax lawyer, so I can't really tell you what the best situation is for you, but I can tell you what my wife and I have done to protect ourselves with our own rental properties and whether or not that would be a good fit for you as well. So, like I said before, an LLC stands for a limited liability company. And what this is just a way to protect yourself or your assets from any legal litigation. So, for example, if a tenant trips and falls in the snow and then wants to sue you, they can't come after yourself personally. They can still attack the business and everything in it, but an LLC kind of protects your business and separates your personal assets as well. So, like I said, they may be able to take any assets that you have within the business, but your personal home, your personal vehicles, maybe you have a camper or an RV, some four-wheelers, all those things are segregated from and protected within the LLC so that you can't be sued for those things. First and foremost, what are some of the benefits of creating an LLC? Well, like I said, one of the main ones is it protects your personal assets. So your personal home, your personal car. If anybody sues the business because of something that happened, they can't come over and take your personal assets at the same time. Another benefit is it also keeps your rental properties separate. So say you have multiple LLCs set up and you have one property in LLC A and another property in LLC B. If somebody sues LLC A, they can't also sue LLC B. Because your properties are separated, they can only go after the assets that are within that one LLC. A third benefit of LLCs is that the taxes just pass through the business onto the owners of the LLC. So rather than filing complicated taxes, it's just an additional paper that you file with your taxes, and all of your expenses and income are taxed along with your personal W-2 income, just like everything else. So who should create an LLC? My personal opinion is that if you have any rental properties, you should form an LLC, and then you should take that property and you should move it into said LLC. There's a lot of people that wonder, okay, well, an LLC sounds great, but it also adds some complexity. What if I just do something like an umbrella policy, which covers everything, both my business and my home? That's something we're going to go into a little bit later, but we are going to touch on it, so don't worry. The next question that a lot of people ask is, when should you create an LLC? And it's my personal opinion that you should create an LLC before you purchase a rental property, because it just adds some complexity if you have the rental property after and you want to move everything into the LLC. It's easier just to do everything in closing. Now, there's a lot of people that go really above and beyond with this too. They talk about having a trust and they put the property in the trust, and then there's an LLC attached to that, and then the trust pays the LLC, and then the LLC pays you, just to add some anonymity. And honestly, I think this comes from a lot of real estate gurus who just want to make things more complicated than it needs to be. Form an LLC, put the property in said LLC, and leave it at that. Let's say that you've done all that, you formed an LLC, you have a property ready to go. How do you actually move the property into an LLC? And it's a lot easier than you think. Say you're buying a property and you're going to the title office to close. What you're going to do is you're going to do something called a quitclaim deed. Now, let's kind of explain what's going on there. So, for example, when you purchase a car, you have a physical piece of paper called a title that shows who owns the car. The same thing is done with real estate, except instead of a title, that piece of paper is called a deed. That deed just shows who owns the property. So if the property was in your own name, what you can do is you can do this quitclaim deed, and you can essentially sign that property over to the LLC, and the LLC now shows as the owners of the property. My wife and I, we have all of our properties in an LLC, and what happens is when we go to buy a new property, we immediately quitclaim it into the ownership of the LLC. To do so, at the same time that we're closing on that property, we We sign the quitclaim deed. It costs $19 in our area, and really that fee just goes to the work of the title company to file that at the county office. So you pay your $19, you quitclaim it, they record it at the county office, and then it's good and done. Okay, whoa now, so before you freak out, a lot of people down in the comments are probably gonna mention the due on sale clause. Essentially what this is when you purchase a property and you finance it, your lender puts a little, fine print in there that's called the due on sale clause. What this means is they have the right, if you move that property to a different ownership, the lender has the right to call that loan in full, and they could say, you know what, you moved this without our permission, I want you to pay everything back on the loan that you owe. That is a little scary when you think about it. Say you have a $150,000 loan on this property, you don't have $150,000 cash to pay it off really quick. In my experience, this has never happened. When a lender's making good money off your mortgage payments, all that interest that you pay every single month, there's no way and no reason why they would ever do that in the first place. But having said that, always check with your lender beforehand and ask them if it's okay if you quitclaim it to an LLC. This is really simple. It takes a couple minutes. Whenever I do this, I just send a quick email to our loan officer and say, hey, we bought this property. We're closing on it, as you already know. We're going to move it into an LLC. Is that okay with you? And then usually within the day, they write back and say, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and do it. Don't let the due on sale clause worry you at all. Another question that a lot of people ask is, how do you get a loan within an LLC? So my wife and I, for example, we are the owners of the LLC. How does the LLC get financing? And the question of that is, it doesn't. 99% of the time, unless you have a lot of assets and a good repertoire with your lender, they're going to want you to back the loan personally. So what happens is when you move the property into the LLC, the mortgage itself stays in your own name. Now, let me say that again. Let me go into a little bit more detail. Say I have a property, I'm ready to buy it, I go to the bank, they give me a loan. That loan is in my name and my credit is on the line if I don't pay. What happens is you could take that property, move it into an LLC, and you still have the mortgage in your own name. As long as you're paying your mortgage, everything's going to be just fine. Now, what are some of the costs associated with forming an LLC? Well, really, it's just the annual fee and the initial filing. So where I live, for example, the initial filing is $100 to create the LLC and file it with the Secretary of State. And then there's an annual fee of $50 per year just to do the maintenance and upkeep. Nothing really happens, you just have to pay the $50 fee per year. Where I live is really cheap. It may be $250 in your state. If you live in California, for example, the filing fee is $800, which is really expensive. And then there's the ongoing annual recurring fee with that as well. Having said that, I mean, that's kind of expensive, especially if you're just starting out, you only have one rental property. Is it really worth the effort of moving everything into an LLC? And that brings me to my next point, which is talking about an umbrella policy, which I mentioned earlier. Like I said before, an umbrella policy is something that you purchase through your insurance company, and it covers all of your assets, both your business and your personal assets, in case you were to get sued. Say a tenant again slips on the ice, they fall, they want to sue you, and they sue you for $250,000. Because you have, say, a $1 million umbrella insurance policy, you're covered. Obviously, that still doesn't make the situation fun, but at least there's going to be a payout and it's not going to be coming out of your pocket instead. My wife and I have a $1 million umbrella insurance policy, which covers our personal assets and our business as well. This just gives us an added layer of protection in case anything were to happen. The next question may be, well, you said that your properties were in an LLC, why do you have an umbrella policy too? And the answer to that is we just like to be double covered. The LLC limits the assets that can be accessed, but if something happens above and beyond that, we also have the umbrella policy to cover anything else. It sounds like a lot of money to have a $1 million umbrella policy, and it's really not. For $1 million, we pay, is it $20 a month? I think it's $20. Yeah, I think it's $20 a month. Hold on. Yeah, that's right. We pay $23 per month for a $1 million insurance policy. I mean, that's the cost of a pizza per month. It is so worth it to me just to be double covered. having said all of this, what is the best option for you personally? My personal recommendation is to start small and to scale up your coverage as you grow. Yeah, the LLC adds a little bit of complexity. There's the paperwork, you have to do the quit claims whenever you buy a property, all that stuff. The umbrella policy makes it really easy. All you have to do is call your insurance company, say, hey, I need this coverage. They'll put it in place, and then you're done and you're protected. So like I said, I would recommend that you start small. Don't worry about all the asset protection when you're just getting started. If you have one property, maybe you do just the LLC, or maybe you do just the umbrella policy. And then as you grow and you acquire more properties, kind of assess your needs and see if you need more protection. There are a lot of real estate gurus out there who try to charge you $1,500 to, like I said, set up this trust and this complicated payment structure to add all this anonymity. And you know what? It doesn't matter. Definitely don't do that. Either get an LLC, get an umbrella policy, and you'll be just fine. I want to close with one more point. When my wife and I were just starting in real estate, we sat down and we met with a CPA because we wanted to get all of our bank accounts and finances, everything kind of in order before we bought the first deal. Our CPA has been in the business for 35 years and he owns a lot of real estate himself, and he also manages the finances for a lot of people who own dozens of properties. I asked him, I sat down and I said, hey, what do you recommend? I mean, do we need to set up a real estate trust? Do we need to do an LLC? You know, kind of what do you recommend? He said in the 35 years that he's been a CPA and doing the finances for all of these people and doing the taxes for all these people, he has never once, not once in 35 years, had anybody be sued because of a tenant slipping and falling or, you know, anything like that. Not once has any of his clients ever been sued in 35 years. After he said that, I thought to myself, okay, I can calm down. It's not that big of a deal. I do need to still have our assets protected, but relax, it'll be just fine. So having said that, that is it for this video, guys. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you realize that it's really not that big a deal. Yeah, it's important to have, but relax and you'll be just fine. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We will see you next week.